Okay, I think it's recording again. So I've just talked a little bit about kind of big picture, the difference between stress, crisis, and trauma, and some of the general impacts that may be experienced, along with the fact that different populations, based on resources, on past trauma, on other parts of the person's context, may be experiencing the pandemic in different ways. Of course, there are, we're going to talk in the webinar on Thursday about mental health services and the fact that a lot of mental health services are being provided via telemental health right now. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm certainly going to encourage reaching out for professional counseling or therapy support if someone needs that. But I also want to talk a little bit about things that we can all do on our own as well, and ways of being aware of our self-care strategies and just our overall wellness. So there's a concept called the Wheel of Wellness, or a framework called the Wheel of Wellness, and it's a way of thinking about your overall well-being using the metaphor of a wheel, and that each spoke in the wheel represents one area of your life. And so one spoke may be financial, one may be emotional, one is relational, one is physical, and considering each of these areas as a part of your overall wellness can help think about how they influence each other, and some of the bi-directional influence that each of those areas might have on your overall well-being. If you think about if some of those spokes in a bicycle wheel are broken or weak or aren't working properly, functioning properly, the wheel isn't going to roll as smoothly or as effectively. And so this is a way of thinking about wellness as a process, and maybe some small steps or some areas of our life that might need some attention or some tune-ups, especially during times of high crisis, such as a global pandemic that we are in right now. So the assignment for this week is to encourage you to think about your own overall wellness and some small steps that you might be able to take in supporting your general well-being. Not to add more things to your to-do list, to feel guilty that you're not getting to, or to cause more stress, but to recognize that some small steps in different areas really can have a bigger impact on how you're feeling going through the day, and the resources that you have available to you to cope with this time. That click didn't work. There we go. So I'm going to provide a couple of different models. If you Google Wheel of Wellness or Wellness Wheel, you will find dozens, if not hundreds, of options. So if you don't like the ones that I'm providing, feel free to Google Wheel of Wellness or Wellness Wheel, and you can find some more templates. This one is called the Indivisible Self. I like this one because it was developed by one of my mentors, Jane Myers, from UNC Greensboro. And so I was taught this in my graduate program. And it's divided into 5 different categories: the creative self, the physical self, the social self, the coping self, and the essential self. And each one of those categories has some more specific areas within each of those areas that you can look at and consider, how is my overall, or how am I doing with exercise and nutrition and sleep? I think that should actually be part of the physical self, is sleep. Sleep is very important to me. And in terms of how I'm functioning throughout the day. Under the coping self, for instance, leisure activities. What are you doing to have fun right now? What are you doing as a leisure outlet? What are some of your stress management techniques or strategies? How's your self-worth and your self-esteem? Are there some things that you might want to do to help improve your general way that you see yourself? And what are some of the beliefs that you have about yourself and the world, and are they realistic? So some of these items are certainly things that a counselor or a therapist could address with a person in session. Some of these are things that I think can be addressed pretty easily individually, and to just with some awareness of how is this area of my life going, and are there some small things that I could be doing differently. The next model is one that does look a little bit more like a wheel to fit that wheel metaphor, and includes financial, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, physical, social, and environmental well-being. And I'll let you kind of look at that and some of the definition in there. Okay, had a quick toddler interruption, but we're back. Going to move to the next slide. There we go. So your assignment is to develop a personal wellness plan with one of these models, with one of these templates. And again, you can use one of these models if you like, or you can find another one. I'm including in the assignment a template of a wheel that you could use. But what I'm asking you to consider is to do a self-assessment of each area on a scale of 1 to 10. Rating your level of wellness in each area, as well as your level of satisfaction. So it may be that in one of the areas you say, well, if I'm being really honest, my health in this area is probably at a 6, but my satisfaction is an 8 because it's not something that I really have the time or energy to deal with right now. Okay, then maybe that's not the one that you want to set a goal around. So then you're going to prioritize maybe 1 or 2 or 3 at the most areas that need some attention, and think about some changes that could make the most impact on your overall sense of well-being and life satisfaction. And then set some goals and try to make them as clear and specific and concrete as you can, with the idea, is this something that I could do daily or weekly, or simply put some intention around making some small changes that would have a big impact. And then what I'm asking you to submit isn't necessarily all the ratings of each area. You could if you wanted to, but I think it would make most sense for the submission to be a 1 to 2 page reflection on this process, on your thought process about your wellness and some of the goals that you're setting. I do believe that putting goals on paper helps to solidify your commitment to whatever the goal is, in this case, your own self-care and well-being. And if you're a parent, you might also find it useful to think about a wheel of wellness and a plan that might be helpful for your kids too. So I hope that I've decided to go with more of an application-based assignment that I thought might have a real impact for you. So I look forward to the webinar on Thursday, and feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. Thanks so much.